faithfully delivering value and interpreting great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally with Book Talk. Today, I'll be sharing the book Israel, the Rebirth of a Nation. It covers the origins of Israel and its journey of development. The term nation in the subtitle refers to the Jewish people, and the author, Gordis, is part of that community. Gordis was born in the U.S. to a Jewish family, got his education there, then moved his family to Israel, and now teaches at Shalem College in Jerusalem. The Jewish people have faced centuries of adversity, scattered worldwide for almost 2,000 years, until the mid-1900s when they founded Israel. In just decades after its founding, Israel rose to be a top economic and military force in the Middle East. Israel's accomplishments have wowed the globe, yet they've also caused severe suffering for local Arabs. After Israel was established, millions of Arabs became refugees, living in hardship. Because of this, Israel has faced condemnation from the UN and isolation internationally. It's a controversial nation that sparks interest. There are countless books on its history, but unlike others, Gordis's work dives into lesser-known Jewish ideas before Israel's founding and the evolution of its politics afterward, topics often overlooked. Well, because Gordis put in such detailed effort, scholars love it, and it won the 2016 National Jewish Book Award. Dennis Ross, Clinton's former Middle East envoy, says this is the one book to read on Israel. I'll break down the book into 4 parts for you. Part 1, Jewish life before Israel. Part 2, how the world influenced Zionism. Part 3, how Jews built their state. Part 4, Israel's growth since its founding. Okay, let's dive into Part 1, Jewish life before Israel. Their ancient homeland was in Palestine, a key spot at the junction of 3 continents, constantly threatened by neighbors. In its first millennium after founding, it faced invasions from powerful empires like Assyria, Babylon, and Rome. In 70 AD, Rome captured Jerusalem, the ancient Jewish capital and religious holy site, where hundreds of thousands of Jews perished. Many were enslaved, and survivors were forced into diaspora. For over 1,000 years after, they lived under foreign rule, sometimes treated with respect, but more often bullied and even brutally persecuted. Why were Jews unwelcome? The author notes, this stems mainly from religious issues and racial prejudice. According to the Bible, Jesus died because his disciple Judas, a Jew, betrayed him. So European Christians held Jews responsible for Jesus' death. But racial discrimination was worse than religious issues. Jews often faced baseless hatred from locals, utterly senseless. During social turmoil, they became scapegoats, especially in financial crises, when Jewish merchants were blamed. In modern times, anti-Semitic violence escalated, with countless innocent Jews massacred and property looted. The Kishinev pogrom in Russia is a stark example. On April 19, 1903, Easter, hundreds of rioters stormed Jewish quarters, destroying shops and homes while police ignored it. With government approval, they began massacring Jews. Troops weren't sent to stop the violence until April 21st. This pogrom killed 49 Jews, destroyed 1,500 families, and caused immense property loss. During their diaspora, Jews hoped for acceptance and peace abroad, but this dream shattered repeatedly. Harsh reality made Jews realize returning to their homeland to build a nation was their only salvation. In the late 19th century, Jewish intellectuals spearheaded the Zionist movement, led by Theodor Herzl. Born in Hungary in 1860, he moved to Vienna at 18. After graduation, he worked at the Paris bureau of Vienna's Neue Freie Presse, becoming a well-known writer. Having lived long-term in Europe, he witnessed rampant anti-Semitism there, so he dedicated his life to Zionism. To clarify his stance, Herzl wrote The Jewish State in 1896, analyzing the roots of Jewish persecution and proposing a Jewish homeland. The book caused a sensation upon release, with editions in English, Hebrew, Russian, and French appearing just in 1896, becoming the most widely circulated Jewish work. Herzl gained immense prestige and became the leader of the Zionist movement through the Jewish state. Its huge impact came mainly from reigniting an ancient dream Jews had held for millennia. The year after publication, Herzl organized the first Zionist Congress, achieving key outcomes. First, drafting the World Zionist Program. This document clearly stated Zionism's goal, establishing a Jewish state in Palestine. Second, establishing the national anthem. Third, creating the Jewish National Fund. This fund bought land in Ottoman-ruled Palestine. Fourth, establishing committees and administrative bodies. This laid the groundwork for advancing Zionism. Through this Congress, Jews took a major step towards statehood. While Herzl worked for Zionism, scholar Eliezer ben Yehuda revived Hebrew, the ancient Jewish language. Studying at the University of Paris, ben Yehuda saw French's profound impact on French nationalism. This made him realize Jewish revival required both a state and a distinct language. So, ben Yehuda developed Hebrew for daily use, promoting it in Palestinian Jewish communities, reviving this ancient language. Although Jews desperately wanted a homeland, they disagreed on how to achieve it. The main disagreements were, first, differing from Herzl's view, prominent Jewish scholar Ahad Ha'am believed establishing a sovereign state couldn't save the Jewish people.
He advocated for a spiritual center in Palestine to enrich Jewish spiritual life. He and Herzl had fierce debates, but the Kishinev pogrom later swayed majority support to Herzl's view.
Though Ha'am's view wasn't adopted, his concept of Jewish spirituality still influences Jews today. Second, Zionist leader Jabotinsky founded revisionist Zionism. The single-quote revisionist label meant rejecting gradual approaches and opposing diplomatic state-building.
Jabotinsky argued Jews must use force to achieve statehood. To that end, he armed Jews for revolt and independence. His views faced opposition then, but history repeatedly proved him right.
Third, leader A.D. Gordon proposed labor Zionism, cultivating a new Jew through labor. He founded the kibbutz. This was a collective community based on socialist principles. It later became invaluable to Israeli society. Fourth, many religious figures opposed a Jewish state. They believed Zionism violated Jewish tradition, as doctrine only recognizes exile or messianic redemption. Under this belief, Jews would return to their homeland when God decreed. Thus, they argued Jews shouldn't seek statehood, but await divine redemption. This view gained significant support, creating a stalemate between religious groups and Zionists. Zionism became a melting pot where Jews debated their path to statehood.
These divisions persisted after statehood, continuing to shape Israel.
Even as Herzl planned a Jewish state, Jews had already begun immigrating to Palestine. Back then, Palestine was still under Ottoman rule and extremely underdeveloped. The local population was mostly Arab. As European anti-Semitism worsened, many Jews fled, with some choosing Palestine. They established Jewish communities there. Settlers needed to buy land from the Ottomans, plus housing, equipment, livestock, all requiring money. So where did the funds come from? Wealthy European Jewish philanthropists stepped up, donating generously to immigrants. Baron Rothschild was key. He donated $6 million, a fortune then equal to about $150 million today. By 1937, Palestine had about 160 Jewish villages, with Rothschild funding one-third. From late 1800s to 1930s, Palestine saw 5 waves of Jewish immigration, 3 crucial to Israel's founding. The second, third, and fifth Aliyah. The second Aliyah, 1904, profoundly shaped Jewish communities.
This wave brought about 40,000 immigrants.
During this time, modern Hebrew created by Ben Yehuda came into full use.
Also, the kibbutz, founded by Gordon, emerged, rooted in Russian collectivism.
It emphasized collective responsibility and labor, with all resources shared.
Here, even family bonds became secondary.
Children lived in communal houses, not with parents. Kibbutzim profoundly influenced Israeli society. Members showed strong patriotism, and many Israeli leaders came from kibbutzim. They later formed military backbones. The third Aliyah post-WW1 brought 35,000 to Palestine. These immigrants made technological advances, especially in water engineering. Crucial in errant Palestine, water tech was vital for survival. Political institutions also emerged, most importantly, the Jewish Assembly. This became the precursor to Israel's parliament. The fifth Aliyah happened in the 1930s. As Europe deteriorated, Palestine's Jewish communities improved, making this the largest wave, mostly from Central or Eastern Europe, including affluent German Jews. Wabs, Dow, Broad. 1934 alone saw 42,000 immigrants, the peak year. Through these waves, Palestine's Jewish population soared from under 30,000 to nearly 400,000, with infrastructure steadily improving. Newcomers brought Western technology and ideas, laying foundations for a Jewish state. That concludes part 1. Next, how the world influenced Zionism. Before WWN, Zionists realized the Ottoman Empire would lose the Middle East, likely to Britain. Thus, Zionism needed British support, a mission entrusted to Weizmann.
Weizmann, Israel's first president, was born to Russian Jews, earned a chemistry PhD, then became a Zionist leader.
He'd worked in British military R&D with notable achievements. Crucially, he knew Foreign Secretary Balfour personally, making him ideal for the task. Weizmann's lobbying succeeded, producing the Balfour Declaration. The declaration was brief and deliberately vague. It supported a Jewish national home in Palestine without specifying how or when. Still, Zionism gained the British Empire's backing, a huge step toward broader international support. In April 1920, Allied powers met in San Remo, Italy. Attendees discussed partitioning the Ottoman Empire's territories. Delegates recognized the Balfour Declaration and formally placed Palestine under British mandate rule. As Jewish immigration grew, Arabs feared Palestine would become Jewish-dominated, increasing hostility toward local Jews. The San Remo Conference further inflamed Arab hostility, leading to violent attacks against Jews. Many Jews clung to illusions of coexistence with Arabs. No one saw reality clearer than hardliner Jabotinsky. In 1923, Jabotinsky proposed his Iron Wall theory. No agreement was possible between Arabs and Jews. Jews must confront Arab violence with an iron wall. This theory deeply influenced Jewish strategy.
It became foundational for Israel's right-wing politics, proving Jabotinsky's foresight historically.
Arab violence escalated in following years, exploding in the 1929 Hebron massacre. On August 23, 1929, Arab rioters stormed a Hebron yeshiva, killing dozens of Jews. The next day was the Jewish Sabbath. Rioters attacked Hebron's Jewish quarter, and violence quickly spread elsewhere. This pogrom killed 133 Jews and destroyed Hebron's 400-year-old Jewish community. And the Kishinev massacre in Russia had repeated in Palestine, leaving Jews no choice. They began developing paramilitary forces. They produced or bought weapons, while recruiting volunteers, forming a 25,000-strong force, the precursor to Israel's military. As Jewish-Arab violence escalated, Britain sought a permanent solution for Palestine. Thus, Britain formed the Palestine Royal Commission. Headed by Lord Peel, it was called the Peel Commission. In 1936, the Peel Commission arrived in Palestine and, after thorough research, issued a report. This report offered a concrete solution, building on the Balfour Declaration. The Peel Report's core conclusion: Palestine couldn't be jointly governed. Partition was the only solution. It clearly defined territorial boundaries for Jews and Arabs. Peel proposed allocating 20% of Palestine to Jews, with the rest for Arabs. Jews received far less than expected, angering hardliners like Jabotinsky. Yet, most Jewish leaders accepted it, realizing their vulnerability made this a significant achievement. Once established, the Jewish state could expand beyond these borders. Despite gaining most land, Arabs rejected it outright, refusing any Jewish state, however small. Meanwhile, in Europe, Jewish conditions worsened dramatically. Nazi Germany intensified persecution against Jews. On November 9th to 10th, 1938, Germany and Austria saw massive anti-Jewish violence. Kristallnacht. SS and Hitler Youth rampaged, 7,500 Jewish shops destroyed, 267 synagogues burned, 26,000 Jews sent to camps. This was only the beginning. Greater catastrophe awaited Jews. In January 1942, Nazi leaders met at Wannsee, planning to deport Jews to Polish extermination camps. During 2001, Nazis murdered 6 million Jews, 1/3 of world Jewry. For half a century, Jews debated statehood. But the Holocaust proved the necessity of a homeland, unifying Jews around Zionism despite the tragedy. Next, Part 3. How Jews Built Their State. In January 1947, Britain referred Palestine's status to the UN, which formed a special committee. That September, the committee proposed partitioning Palestine, 55% to Jews, 45% to Arabs.
The UN Palestine Partition Plan, Resolution 181, passed that November. After nearly 2 millennia of waiting, Jews finally had their own nation.
50 years after the first Zionist Congress in 1897, Herzl's dream became reality. Despite UN approval, Jews deeply disagreed about when to declare statehood. Declaring independence meant war with Arab states, but Jewish forces were desperately outmatched.
The U.S. State Department and CIA believed Jewish military strength couldn't withstand an invasion.
So many leaders urged patience, waiting for a better moment. At this critical juncture, Ben-Gurion led the Jewish community. Born David Grun in Poland, his upbringing made him a committed Zionist from youth. He'd held key positions in Jewish organizations, rising to leadership through exceptional ability. But he'd become Israel's first prime minister after independence. Ben-Gurion was a strategic genius who knew delaying statehood meant losing the chance forever. Through his efforts, the Jewish National Council narrowly approved founding a state. On May 14, 1948, Jews held the founding ceremony at Tel Aviv Museum. Ben-Gurion read the Declaration of Independence, a 32-minute ceremony opening a new chapter in Jewish history. The new nation was named Israel, with Jews nationwide celebrating this pivotal moment. Exiled by Rome, they'd wandered through centuries of persecution, returning to build a homeland fulfilled generations of dreams. After 2,000 years of waiting, they'd finally have refuge from persecution. Jewish victory naturally meant Arab defeat. War between Israel and Arab states was inevitable. Arabs launched attacks immediately after the UN partition vote. Newly founded Israel lacked troops and equipment. Few believed they could win.
To arm themselves, Israel bought weapons from the US and Western nations.
Much was World War II surplus, even German weapons with Nazi markings. But facing existential threats, Israel had no choice. With no air force, Jewish pilots who'd served in the U.S. Air Force bought planes abroad and joined the fight. Over 100,000 Jews enlisted in the IDF. Many were Holocaust survivors from Europe. So this makeshift army with patchwork weapons went to war. Could they possibly win? The war had two phases. First, from UN partition to Israel's declaration of independence. During this period, Jewish militias fought local Arab irregulars. Second phase lasted from independence to early 1949.
Here, Israel's new regular army battled 5 nations: Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, and Egypt.
The war ended in Arab defeat. Israel not only defended its sovereignty, but captured 4/5 of Palestine. This was 6,000 square kilometers more than the UN partition allotted. Tragically, 700,000 Palestinian Arabs became refugees, forced from ancestral homes. Many still live in camps across Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, their plight drawing global sympathy. While Israel bears responsibility, the author notes, host nations share blame too. To fuel anti-Israel sentiment, they deliberately denied refugees citizenship and permanent homes. Post-war, roughly 700,000 Jews were expelled from Arab countries, matching the number of Arab refugees. When they arrived in Israel, they immediately received citizenship. This treatment of fellow Jews explains why Jewish forces outperformed Arabs in battle. Finally, let's explore Part 4, Israel's development after independence. Here we'll examine 3 critical issues shaping post-independence Israel. They are 2 major Middle East wars, the unresolved Palestinian issue, and Israel's political evolution. First, Israel's 2 pivotal wars, the Six-Day War and Yom Kippur War. After losing the Independence War, Arab states wouldn't accept defeat. In the Six-Day and Yom Kippur Wars, Israel faced even greater tests. In May 1967, Egyptian troops entered Sinai and blockaded the Strait of Tiran. Clear military provocation. Facing this, Israel decided on a preemptive strike. Israeli Air Force launched a surprise attack, decimating Egypt's air power. Ground forces followed. The war ended in just 6 days with overwhelming Israeli victory. Israel's military prowess in the Six-Day War stunned the world. From this war, Israel captured Gaza and Sinai, plus West Bank and Golan Heights, 42,000 square miles total, tripling territory and reversing strategic weaknesses. This victory massively boosted Israeli confidence.
For Arabs, the Six-Day War was a humiliating disgrace.
In following years, Arabs planned a larger war. On October 6, 1973, Yom Kippur, Judaism's holiest day, Egypt and Syria attacked simultaneously from north-south. Caught unprepared, Israel suffered heavy losses. The 25-year-old nation faced existential threat before regrouping.
With U.S. military aid, Israel first halted Syria's advance, then exploited Egyptian errors to strike decisively.
In this war, the IDF again displayed astonishing combat ability, achieving a stunning reversal from near defeat. After the Yom Kippur War, both sides reflected deeply. Must these peoples remain enemies forever? Since Arab states couldn't defeat Israel militarily, they needed to consider long-term coexistence. Israel, meanwhile, wanted a peaceful future for coming generations. For lasting peace, Israel adopted land for peace strategy, negotiating with former arch-rival Egypt. With President Carter mediating, Israel and Egypt signed the 1978 Camp David Accords, with Israel withdrawing from Sinai captured in the Six-Day War. Israeli PM Begin and Egyptian President Sadat jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize that year. In October 1994, Israel and Jordan also signed peace, bringing Middle East peace within reach. Now let's discuss the second issue, the Palestinian issue. Despite peace with neighbors, including UAE in August 2020, the core Palestinian issue remains unresolved. Two main resistance groups target Israel, PLO in West Bank and Hamas in Gaza. Both maintain hostile stances toward Israel. Arafat's PLO engaged in years of grueling negotiations with Israel. The 1993 White House handshake between Arafat and PM Rabin seemed a historic breakthrough, raising peace hopes. Israel made major concessions, but PLO rejected every peace proposal, stalling progress. Compared to PLO, Hamas is more radical, insisting on armed struggle.
Hamas routinely fires rockets from crowded civilian areas into Israeli neighborhoods, terrorizing civilians.
When IDF retaliates, it causes Arab civilian casualties, drawing international condemnation. Hamas turns civilian zones into battlefields, neutralizing Israel's advanced weapons. This creates a perverse dynamic. We attack, but you can't retaliate because we're the underdog. If you strike back, you lose. They skillfully use this tactic against Israel, preventing any resolution to the Palestinian issue. The book also explores another Palestinian-related dilemma. How should Israel treat Palestinian Arabs? They harbor deep hostility toward Jews, and Jews remain highly wary. Any incident could trigger catastrophic consequences. The 1956 Kfar Qasim massacre was one such horrific tragedy. On October 29, 1956, while preparing for what became the Suez Crisis or Sinai War, Israel declared curfew in areas bordering Jordan. Many Arab citizens hadn't received notice. Dozens of laborers heading home encountered IDF patrols who opened fire, killing 47. Many victims were women and children. This event deeply shocked Israeli society. Officials expressed profound remorse afterward, prompting Jewish reflection on survival versus morality. Survival matters, but how do we build a society with moral standards? This introspection continues shaping Israeli society. Finally, let's examine Israel's political factions and their ideologies. Despite party fluidity, Labor, Ben-Gurion, or Rabin represents the left, Likud, Begin, or Sharon, the right. These forces represent Israel's two main societal groups. Jewish immigrants, coming from worldwide diasporas, they'd lived in different nations. Local cultures shaped divergent ideologies, causing deep rifts and even discrimination. The author analyzes immigrant origins and resulting social tensions. Immigrants fall into categories: Ashkenazi Jews from Europe, Mizrahi Jews expelled from Arab nations, Others came from Soviet states and Ethiopia. Ashkenazi and Mizrahi Jews, Israel's two largest groups, have always been deeply divided. In Israel's political factions, the left represents Ashkenazi Jews, the right represents Mizrahi Jews. Ashkenazim arrived in Palestine during pre-statehood immigration waves. Though a demographic minority, they held strong superiority complexes. They believed European culture was superior, thus should dominate society. Ben-Gurion represented them, a visionary leader with elitist tendencies that intensified social divisions. Ben-Gurion consistently discriminated against Mizrahi Jews. He proposed separate schools for Ashkenazi and Mizrahi children. In his view, this prevented Israel from degenerating like neighboring backward nations. Israel briefly implemented segregation policies, barring Mizrahi from new communities to prevent dilution, a shameful chapter. These early social issues shaped Israel's political evolution. Mizrahi Jews were marginalized across all societal sectors. Post-1970s, they mobilized for change, succeeding in the 1977 elections. Begins Likud defeated the long-ruling Labor Party. Left and right diverged on many issues, especially handling occupied Arab territories. While lands from 1948 provided breathing room, Six-Day War conquests became burdens. Though militarily triumphant, absorbing new lands and 1.25 million Arabs posed dilemmas.
The right saw security in these lands, advocating Jewish settlements.
The left argued occupation would alter Israel's character, urging withdrawal. Jews built Israel to save their people after Nazi genocide. Now, should they inflict similar suffering upon Arabs? Must Israel's success be built upon the tragic fate of Arabs?
This issue sparked widespread debate among Israelis, with many soldiers also conflicted.
Regarding how Jews should wield force, even before statehood, Zionists fiercely debated this internally. Today's left-right divide partly continues these early Zionist conflicts. The author believes their core disagreement is about protecting the nation's soul. Both left and right love their homeland and strive for prosperity, only their methods differ. In Israel, both camps have strong support. Voters choose based largely on international conditions. When Israel's external threats worsen, people lean right-wing. When tensions ease, they support the left. That concludes our summary of Israel, a deeply insightful book, especially in revealing political divisions, surpassing similar works. And it's precisely these endless debates over founding and development that continue shaping Israel's future. Okay, that's all for Israel, the rebirth of a nation. Find keynotes below the audio. See you next time.